Well, I don't want to talk about baggage. I want to talk about a treasure chest. Yes, a treasure chest. The only difference between baggage and a treasure chest is in the content. And for me, that choice of content is driven by a philosophy. In my life, there are no barriers. There are only solutions. And hence, I have 3 advantages. Now just bear with me as I explain them. Advantage number 1. I was born black in apartheid South Africa. Based on the color of my skin, it was determined what hospital I could be born in, what neighborhood I could live in, what school I could attend. Apartheid was a harsh period in the history of South Africa. Advantage number 2. I was born in a working class family. My father was a commercial diver, but sadly he became an alcoholic and could not hold down a job, eventually ending up as a security guard in a factory. My mother was a school teacher, and we know school teachers don't earn much money. Security guards hardly earn anything. So I grew up on the borderline of poverty. Advantage number 3. You see, I can walk today, but I don't take this for granted because I could not always walk when I was a youngster. When the big guy upstairs was handing out hip sockets, I was not paying attention. And hence, in the left hip, where we should have a ball and socket joint complete, I lacked the cup. And so I went through 3 surgeries. That last surgery left me in a body cast from my ankle to my chest. Now, you hear me speak about 3 advantages, but you just heard me speak about prejudice, economic hardship, physical disability. And you're shaking your heads and you say, this guy's crazy. Those are not advantages, those are huge disadvantages. Well, let's go back to that philosophy. In my life, there are no barriers. There are only solutions. That became the fundamental driving factor around who I am. And my mother said to me, son, life isn't always fair. If you can overcome the prejudice, if you can overcome the economic hardship, if you can overcome your physical disability, then whatever else life throws at you, you shall find a way to overcome that too. And that, through our attitude, is how we turn our disadvantages into advantages. That is why I choose to carry a treasure chest. I've put my experiences, all the positive and negative experiences, as the treasures that have helped me to make a journey through life. Now, before I can take you on the journey, I have to go back in history to a woman I call Mom. This woman who not only gave me my values or my life, but she was a leader, a woman who set things apart in South Africa. You see, my mother was a brilliant student, and she ended up being awarded a scholarship to go to university. And there at the University of Cape Town in South Africa, she continued to be a brilliant student and hence was awarded another scholarship, this time to choose any university in the United States. She chose to go to Syracuse University in upstate New York. And she arrived in this country via steamship to attend university, where she did her master's in education. When she graduated, it was 1948. Very few women in South Africa, very few women in the United States attended university in that era. But she was a trendsetter, and she was offered, after graduating, opportunities to teach at the Ivy Leagues of the United States. And she turned them down to go back to South Africa because she believed in education for all South Africans, irrespective of race, color, creed, or sex. Now, this made her a subversive in the eyes of the government, the apartheid government. And so she was fired for her speeches at the University of Cape Town. And she became a teacher trainer. And there she founded the Teachers League of South Africa with a few other members. And they were banned. They were classified as a radical organization. And she was then put under house arrest. Some of her colleagues went to Robben Island, where Mandela served in later years. When she came out of house arrest, the government thought they would reduce her by allowing her to now just be a teacher, a biology teacher. And the only job she could get was at her alma mater, Livingston High School. And they thought they had silenced her. But what the government did not realize was they put her in the most powerful position to change lives and to shape a future. Here she had fertile young minds to influence about the value of education, the application of knowledge in the realization of any dream. And it's truly, success is about our application of information. And this is what you're about. In the world of technology, you are dealing with information and how we process that into all the various applications that make technology companies and our industries and our non-technological related industries actually function. In other words, our world. My mother was a part of that early catalyst in education. And she believed that all children should have an opportunity to excel. Now, she used to tutor me as a kid because I'd missed a lot of my schooling being in hospital. But she also tutored for decades before I was born some brilliant students. And at a certain time of the year, she would then go to the University of Cape Town and fight with them for slots at the medical school because they only offered so many slots for people of color. And then after winning that, she'd go to the business community to obtain scholarship money because our community was impoverished. And this was a cycle that went on year after year after year. And many of those students, I was tutored alongside with them. And I want to jump ahead. I became an international sportsman. And I'd been away for quite a few years on doing what I do. And I went home for a promotion, and Mom met me at the airport. And she gave me a big hug. And something felt different. So I pushed her away to look at her. And she looked different. And then I realized my mother had no breasts. I said, Mom, what happened? I said, well, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. And I went through a double mastectomy. I'd heard the rumors that she had not been well, but I did not hear that she had gone through a major surgery. This was total news. And I was upset. And I said, Mom, why was I not told? And her attitude was, you had enough of your own problems to worry about. You didn't have to worry about me. This shows you the strength of this woman. Then I said, as I was not there for you, who was? And she beamed and she started to name names. And I recognized some of those names because some of those names were kids I grew up with. I was tutored in their homes. So-and-so, these kids had gone to medical school. So-and-so became her oncologist. So-and-so became director of nursing. So-and-so became the anesthesiologist. Every person who touched my mother at that critical time in her life happened to be a former student. Now, these doctors did not come just to save some patient's life. They came to save the life of their teacher, a woman who had encouraged them, who had supported them, who had pushed them. No amount of insurance could have purchased the health care my mother got. Now, my mother recovered, and my mother did not become a teacher and help these young people get into university and become doctors because someday she will need their help to save her life. My mother became a teacher because she believed in our community. She believed that we had to have access to good health care, to great education, and to open up all types of opportunities for our community. She just happened to be one recipient of several millions of folks who have lived in the city of Cape Town. One recipient of the benefactors of people coming together and working together for common interest and common cause. Like my mother, you are very similar. You have come to the world of technology, not because it's going to make you rich and famous. You've come to the world of technology because you believe in making a difference. You believe in lifting people up. Our colleagues here at Infotech, who help write the research papers, have an incredible opportunity, like my mother, to teach, to share, to innovate, to bring forth knowledge. It is that knowledge and the application of that knowledge that our folks at Infotech apply, that you as our members acquire and continue to build upon. You are the greater community. And it is through this partnership that we are able to lift all kinds of people across the globe. Now, my mother said to me that if you can ask 4 questions of yourself and emphatically say yes to those 4 questions, then life should be with less struggle. And so these questions have come near and dear to me. And that first question I ask, whatever we do, is it right for me? And everybody in this room can justify the answer, including a drug dealer. The second question is, what I do, is it right for my family? And again, we can justify the answer, and so does the drug dealer. The drug dealer, she can say, look at the nice house, or the nice cars, or the nice schools the kids go to. And most people in our society stop at these two questions. The third question is, what I do, is it right for my community? Now the drug dealer is in trouble. And today, we live in a global community thanks to you, thanks to your ability to connect us to furthest corners of the planet and maybe even the universe. And the fourth question is, what I do, is it right for the next generation? When I look around our world, I see so much potential. And if we were to focus on question 3 and question 4, by focusing on our communities as well as the next generation, imagine what the world can possibly look like. And the nice part is, you in this room, who are part of the Infotech family, are part of shaping our global communities and future generations. So we have an obligation, we have a responsibility to ensure that we do things for the right reasons, that we have transparency, that we protect the data, we avoid the breaches, and all the elements that come along in this world of technology. This is the foundation my mother gave me to live my life upon, and what I'm about to share with you now is the story of my journey. So as I said, I grew up in Cape Town, South Africa, disabled. At the age of 18 months, this hip diagnosis was made, and by the age of 5, I went through 3 surgeries, and that last surgery left me in a body cast from my ankle to my chest. I couldn't move in that body cast, a full body cast. If I wanted to see a different view, a nurse or doctor physically had to pick me up and shift me around. Now, I eventually came out of that body cast and I was hobbling around with the crutches. But whilst I lay in the hospital, in pain, not knowing what tomorrow would look like, a doctor stopped at my bedside and he said to me, "Son, what are you interested in?" Because I grew up in the coastal city of Cape Town, South Africa, and I heard the stories of my father and his time at sea. And I grew up seeing the Indian Ocean and seeing the Atlantic Ocean. I said boats. And a few days later, that doctor showed up with a whole stack of sailing magazines. Now, I was too young to read the words, but a picture paints 1,000 words. I saw photographs of yachts gliding through the ocean, and I thought, maybe someday I could be on a boat. I saw photographs of beautiful turquoise waters, lined with white sandy beaches and palm trees, the Caribbean. And I thought maybe someday I could experience a Caribbean island. What those photographs did was give me hope. And hope is the energy of change. Where we are today does not necessitate that this is all there is in life. When we lose hope, we end up with some of the challenges we have in the Middle East, where we may have suicide bombers because they have nothing to live for and something to die for. We cannot allow hope to perish. And in the world of change, you are driving the fastest change to happen in mankind. We live in the most exciting era of how rapid technology is shifting, is changing, is evolving. And you are on the cutting edge of ensuring that that happens. You are a part of bringing hope to this world, because it's how we use these applications. It is the kid in Africa who may not have access to proper schools, but may have access to a smartphone and to a Wi-Fi network, and may one day have access to G5 network, and suddenly has access to the entire world of commerce or knowledge. Or some other kid in another part of the world who has learned to trade phone minutes as a currency, eventually leading to a cryptocurrency or whatever the new digital form of currencies will become. You are part of this amazing journey of change. And so I knew I would leave the hospital bed and my world could change, even though now I was hobbling around on crutches or calipers. Now, my school friends play that game of soccer. And I stood on the sidelines, and I wanted to be with them. And they said, hey, you're a sissy. Go play with the girls. Well, I could not run and do what they did, and I didn't really quite get right playing with the girls. So I ended up using that opportunity to go to the public library and to read. My school library had no books. Now, the public library that I was supposed to go to because of my race group under apartheid was a one room with just a couple of shelves with even less books than those shelves in the whole building were, and nothing on my interest. My interest was the sea, was adventure, discovery. I found out that those books were in the whites-only library. That library was across the railway line in another part of town that I did not belong in. But I found the courage. I was encouraged by my mother to break the barriers and to go and seek the treasures of knowledge. And so I entered that library, and I stood in the aisle, and I found where the books on nautical adventure were. And I began reading those books standing in the aisle. And then I got busted. The librarian found me and asked me, what are you doing here? And I said, well, I'm interested in these books. I want to read them. He says, yes, I know. I've seen you here for several months. You do know that you can check out those books. And so I began to take these books out of the library. And eventually, at age 11, I came across a book that was to change my life forever. Joshua Slocum, Sailing Alone Around the World. The story of a man from Massachusetts who in 1895 to 1899 era had circumnavigated the world solo. And when I read this book, I knew that I wanted to become a sailor. I wanted to become an adventurer. And I remember going to my dad and saying, hey, Dad, please, can you have a boat? Can you have a boat? But on the money my father was earning, he could not afford to buy me a boat. But my mother said, son, stay reading, stay dreaming. The application of knowledge truly will be your power. I said, well, Dad, if you can't buy me a boat, at least will you take me to the local yacht club? Let me tell you about the local yacht club. Royal Cape Yacht Club. It was rich, it was elitist. The only time somebody from my community showed up in this yacht club was to wash dishes in the kitchen or fix broken gear on their boats, not to be an equal. But I was raised to have courage. I was raised not to accept the word no at face value. So I went from boat to boat and said, oh, please, will you take me sailing? No. Oh, please, will you take me sailing? No. How about you? Will you take me sailing? Will you? Yes, I got out there, and guess what? I got seasick. But I read that some of the best sailors got seasick. When I showed up on those boats, I may not have had practical knowledge of sailing. I had theoretical, academic knowledge. But what I did have was passion and enthusiasm. I was told, sit here and do as told. But I could not just sit there. I was so passionate about the sea and the opportunity that I wanted more. And I realized that through that enthusiasm, I brought value to the boat. As you build your IT teams, you can teach people skills. The soft and the hard skills are very available. But what you can't teach is passion and enthusiasm for the types of technology you're involved in and where you want to take your organization. It is easier to hold people back and say, slow down, than drag people along with you, slowing you down. Make sure your team is passionate about where you are going as an organization and is passionate to utilize the tools that you as CIOs, the tools that Infotech Research provides to you and the licenses to your people. Make sure they're passionate about harnessing this, because this is the team of where you can possibly go. There are no limitations to what you can achieve. I loved every moment of being on that boat, those different boats. And so I knew I have to own a yacht. I said to my school friends, one day I will own a boat. What do you think they did? They laughed. They said, you'll never own a boat. They're rich people. You are poor. You are black. You are working class. You are disabled. They had labels. But again, I was not raised to have labels. So instead, I got a red jacket, a red sailing jacket, and I hung it where I could see it. And I said, someday, when I own a yacht, I am going to wear this jacket as a symbol of that success. I will stand on the boat wearing a sailing jacket. But till that day comes, each time somebody criticizes the dream, each time somebody says you can't do something, look at the symbol and recognize what sacrifices you have to make to achieve that big goal.